Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of On Tap Golf and On Tap Bets. I am your host, Joey Ricotta, joined as always by my good buddy Jack Bushman at Jack Bushman2. I am at Joey Knows Nothing on Twitter. Last week, the Century Tournament of Champions. Holy crap, Jack. This week we're here for the Sony Open, but we need to talk about last week, my friend. I'm going to rant in a second, but I want to know how you're doing.
I'm doing well, man. Yeah, it was, well, I had nothing in contention. I had nothing hit. It was a really tough start to the slate here in 2023. Hopefully we can bounce back this week, the second of the mini Hawaii swing. But I don't want to talk about my troubles because for you and for lots of folk who are on Colin Morikawa, waking up Sunday morning, I mean, thought the bank account was going to be blessed. Even midway through the round, felt like it was going to hit, felt like the bank account was going to be blessed. And then Morikawa kind of got the yips and the Sunday scaries, and Jon Rahm just doing Jon Rahm things, marching all the way back, erasing a 9-shot deficit after the first hole to win by 2. And he was up by 3 going into 18. He was up by 3 when Morikawa was going into 18. So he didn't even leave Morikawa with a chance, man. That's one of the worst, if not the worst beat I've ever seen since I've really started watching golf every week, man. And I just want to say I'm so sorry. I couldn't have imagined what that sweat must have felt like with money on the line, because I thought Sunday morning that it was over. I wasn't even gonna tune into golf all that much because I thought it wasn't gonna be a battle. I thought Morikawa had sealed the deal, and thought it was gonna be a pretty boring Sunday, and it wound up being sadly just the opposite for you, brother. Give me some thoughts on what happened on Sunday.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the thoughts and prayers because it was absolutely awful. Devastating, Jack. Yeah, you said it. Sunday, it seemed like he had it locked up before we went into Sunday. I mean, it's the last week of the regular season for football, for NFL. I'm sitting here watching the Bears. You've got the Texans on my other screen here too. Thank you, Lovey. Thank you, Lovey.
Lovey.
Got the job done for us. Pulled out a victory. Gave us the number 1 overall pick for next year's NFL draft, or well, I guess this year's NFL draft, because we are already in 2023. But nonetheless, man, yeah, Morikawa, dude, I'm sitting there. I think I jinxed it. I told my brother-in-law, I'm like, dude, it doesn't matter what happens with NFL today. Like yesterday, Saturday, this is me speaking on Sunday. I'm like, Saturday, I got my ass kicked betting. I think I lost all but 2 bets, and I probably placed almost 10. So I got my ass kicked, absolutely handed to me. And then Sunday, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling good. NFL slate starting. It's last week of the regular season. All this incentives are out there and available for public knowledge. I can see who wants it more and who doesn't, and I feel good about my bets. Turns out I ended up almost sweeping the board for NFL, and Morikawa is the one I had to be worried about. Morikawa is the one who blew, like you said, a 9-shot lead and then 7-shot lead on the back. Was the back 9, right? Holy shit, dude. I'm sorry. I feel sad. I'm what he said at his presser, or at the podium, whatever, his interview afterwards. He basically sadness. I have nothing else but sadness. I feel bad for him. I almost put him on my banned list, my gambling ban list. I didn't do it, Jack, because at the end of the day, I still really believe in this kid's game. His approach is off the charts. He just needs to learn how to chip. And honestly, the putting as well, the putting, that was kind of my biggest fear coming into this. Can he putt? He made a lot of putts mostly throughout this tournament, the first 3 rounds especially, obviously. The chipping and then putting down the stretch. I mean, he's what do you do if you're Colin Morikawa, man? I don't know.
Yeah, and he had made changes to his putting stroke coming into this year, and through 3 rounds, it looked amazing. And we had known Colin Morikawa. I mean, for those that follow golf closely and are watching week in and week out, betting on this stuff, followers of the show, first off, let me say we appreciate you. But you would know that Colin Morikawa, if he putts, he wins, or, he's right there in contention. That's the thing that's kind of held him back throughout his career. We know he's one of the best, if not the best ball striker in the entire world. His tee to green game is so clean. It's just whether or not the putter is going to cooperate for him. And through 3 rounds, and even early in the 4th round, I think that was kind of the thing that gave me the most confidence that he was going to close it out, was like, oh, he's still putting well here early on Sunday. And then everything just kind of fell apart there on those final 6 holes. He's just got to learn how to close, man. And, the thing I think we all kind of forget now that Morikawa is a 2-time major winner already, this kid's still extremely young. And
Yes.
dude, I mean, he's younger than I am, and I would be shitting my pants down the stretch of a PGA Tour event. We laugh at it and we say, wow, that was terrible. I can't believe Colin Morikawa just did that. But for, a kid who's he's 24, 25 years old, it's a high pressure situation. And yeah, it's now happened twice to him in a matter of a month. But as you mentioned, for the reason why you didn't put him on your ban list, he's just too talented. I don't think anyone can sit here and deny the talent that Colin Morikawa has. It's upper echelon on the PGA Tour. That's why he's a 2-time major champion already at this age. And I give him a lot of credit for being open and honest throughout that whole interview, because, man, I would have been so frustrated. Someone asked me the wrong question, I probably would have been quick to fire back and, be on edge, but he was just extremely honest and open, and I really appreciated that out of him. And at the end of the day, yeah, it was absolutely a brutal Sunday for Colin Morikawa and for everybody who had a wager on him. But we know he's going to have plenty more opportunities in his career to be in contention of bigger events than just the Century Tournament of Champions. So, yeah, well, it was for sure a toughie for him, and sadly a tough way for you to start 2023. There's going to be more opportunities for Colin Morikawa, and hopefully he'll be able to repay you someday later on down the road, Joey, because he owes you some money.
He definitely owes me some money. And like you said, though, I mean, what would we have done in that situation? I absolutely probably would have shit down my leg as well. So, just being honest, we could sit here and critique it and criticize it and be like, oh, Morikawa, what are you doing? But absolutely, it would have been like me at the free throw line in an NBA championship final or something, and I would have absolutely airballed it. That's what it would have been for me. So can't really criticize it too much. I will jump back in on Morikawa again, and I do believe that he's showing signs of real life now again, as far as fixing the putter goes and stuff like that. So I think he's bound for a big year. I really do. I think he's bound for a big year, and I can't wait to jump back on him again at some point. So with that said, though, Jack, the reason why we are doing a show again today is for the Sony Open. They've skipped over to Honolulu here, so now we have the Sony Open again. It's a classic course because they always have it here. It's been around for ages. Pretty stylistically, it's a lot different than we saw last week. As you mentioned in your article, if anyone wants to go check that out, you definitely should at ontapsportsnet.com. Jack, talk to me here. We've got a first full field of the new calendar year, and we are at a country club that, like I said, it's pretty classic, par 70, that I'm going to butcher the hell out of the first name of it. So go ahead, because you told me before this show, and I'm still going to butcher the hell of it. Jack, talk to me about this course.
Old Waialae Country Club. Yeah, it's a staple of the PGA Tour. It's been played every year on tour since 1965, except for 1 year. And this will actually be the 25th. It's kind of weird how they phrase this. It's the 25th edition of the Sony Open, although this course has been part of an event since 1965. It's just the 25th year that Sony's had the name right. So
I don't know why they're celebrating all. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I don't know why they branded it that way, but yeah, it's been a staple of the PGA Tour for quite some time. It's a shorter track, just over 7,000 yards, plays as a par 70. And you referenced, while we're still probably going to see a birdie fest, that's kind of the theme here in Hawaii for these two events. Waialae Country Club plays a lot different than Century for many different reasons. The first and obvious one is being a par 70 and being much shorter. Some other key differences, at Kapalua last week, there's a ton of undulation and slope all around the course, the fairways, the greens. And if you remember listening back to the show last week, we kind of compared it to Augusta National, TPC Deer Run, because of all the slopes that are involved in all three of those courses. Well, this week, Waialae Country Club is extremely flat all over the place. The fairways are flat, the greens are super flat and pure, and the fairways last week at Kapalua, if you all remember, some of the widest on the PGA Tour, actually the widest on the PGA Tour. Some fairways are 100 yards wide out there. It's incredible watching the guys go and just be able to free rip it because there's no worries whatsoever. The same can't be said here at Waialae. The fairways are tree lined. They're pretty thin, but at the same time, missing the fairways hasn't really been penal at all here whatsoever. The greens and regulation percentage at Waialae Country Club is one of the highest on tour, so there really hasn't ever been an issue hitting out of the rough here. I have heard they've raised the rough apparently from 2 inches to 3 inches this year because that's kind of the only real defense on this course, but I still don't think it's going to be all that detrimental to the players. The only problem you'll have missing a fairway is if you find yourself kind of behind one of those trees that are lining the fairways. So while it is tougher to hit these fairways, greens and regulation percentage is still really high. So I think we're looking for strokes gained approach. Obviously, it's a key every week, but I really think that's big this week, particularly on a lot of par fours. And I also think with these flat, pure surfaces that we see at Waialae Country Club, you're going to have to roll the rock well in order to have a chance. I think strokes gained putting is going to really be key here. And as for kind of the hole by hole breakdown, with this being a par 70, Joey, there's only 2 par 5s. Both of them are reachable in 2 shots for pretty much everyone in the field. They're holes number 9 and 18. And most guys will have no problem making birdie there. It's kind of a gimme scoring opportunity, really. But you have to make sure to take advantage of those opportunities, I think, to have a chance to contend. But a lot of the main scoring this week is going to come from the par 4s. There's 12 of them, and most of them fall in between the 400 to 450 yard pocket. And there aren't any of these par 4s that are stretching to the 500 yard mark or so. No one's really going to have trouble with distance heading into these par 4s, and I think that's really gonna open up the field as for who can win this event. I know a lot on the PGA Tour recently we've been seeing the favorites win, and it's been tough, trying to swallow the lower numbers that you just kind of have to bet in today's PGA Tour. That's, who's been winning for the last year. This is one of those events, though, where it really feels like anyone can kind of have a chance because if you play a clean game, you hit the fairway, or even you're just hitting greens in regulation, you're really good with your approach, and you go and make a lot of putts, you're going to be right there in contention. There's not a lot of teeth to this course. Really, the only difficulty is if the rain or the weather really picks up. Otherwise, we usually see the winning scores between 21, 25, 26 under here. The only time it's been low was in 2020 when Cam Smith won, and there was a ton of rain and huge wind gusts throughout the first 3 days. So while this is going to be another birdie fest, Joey, Waialae Country Club plays a lot different than what we saw at Kapalua last week. I really think it opens things up for the field, and that's kind of where it gets tricky, deciding where we're going to go on the betting board, because you can make a case for a lot of these guys with how easy this course is.
Yeah, you definitely can. And, talking about kind of the success, I guess, translating from the guys who played last week and hopping over to play this week, it seems like the people that have their feet wet, playing over there, settling in a little bit and knocking the rust off, knocking the dust off, whatever you want to call it. Like, it seems like that's had some type of correlation here to the guys that have had success. I think 8 of the last 9 winners, you might have mentioned that, Jack, have come from guys who have played last week at the Century Tournament of Champions, which I don't know how we can look at this board and not feel super strongly about the guys that are coming in that played last week. But at the same time, it's hard because I'm looking at this board and I'm like, I'm not sure if I really want to bet a ton of the guys that played last week. There's some that kind of fit for me. And then there's some that I'm like, am I reaching? Like, I feel like I'm kind of reaching just to do that because it makes sense what the stats are telling us, right? Like 73% of the recent trends, I think it was 73% made the cut to the next week of players, golfers that have went from last week to golf year historically. So I guess the past winners too, we could run down that. Hideki Matsuyama, 2022, Kevin Na, 2021, Cam Smith, 2020, Matt Kuchar, 2019, Patton Kizzire, JT before that, and then Russell Henley, who's in this field, 2013. If you really want to go down the board, Ryan Palmer, 2010. So makes me feel old. But Jack, I don't know. Like, what's your feeling about this, like strategy-wise? I know you kind of said, talking about the rough not really being too penile, I guess. Like if you hit it into the rough, greens and reg being high. When I was looking at this, I kind of still wanted to attack driving accuracy because I feel like you don't need to be a super long hitter. I still want those accurate drivers when it's all said and done, or accurate off the tee. So I still kind of looked that way. But Jack, you mentioned strokes gained putting and things of that nature, approach obviously every week. Anything else we should kind of look at as far as stat wise or like trends that you were kind of interested in this week?
Yeah, you brought up, kind of some interesting ones. 8 of the last 9 winners, yes, have played in the Century Tournament of Champions the week prior. 9 of the last 11 too, and 17 of 24. So
jeez,
you can kind of look at that 2 different ways. I think obviously the guys who play in Century, with that being, a tournament of champions and guys who made the Tour Championship, those are usually the best players in the world. And more often than not, the best players in the world win. So that is something to consider. But I think there is something to kind of getting out there last week. And regardless of the results, as we've seen in years past, that has played an impact and carried over here to the Sony. So I do believe there is some truth to that. Now, I'm not going to completely fade everyone who didn't play last week, but there are some guys who I certainly believe, especially the upper echelon of players who got 4 competitive rounds in last week, that is going to make a difference. And it's just tough when, most of those guys are at the top of the betting board and have these low odds. It makes it even more difficult to kind of click on those names, even though historically those have kind of been the guys that have won. So that's where it's interesting and difficult to make decisions at the top of the board for me. But as far as like some final stats and some final thoughts before we dive on into the board, you referenced strokes gained approach. I think good drives gained is really going to be the off the tee stat that I'm going to focus on, which is a drive in which the player hit the green or hit the fringe with their second shot. So guys who are able to hit greens in regulation after their drives. So I think that's kind of how I'm going to attack that stat. Some other things I've looked at: opportunities gained, how many times you hit it with inside 15 to 20 feet. Strokes gained putting. When you mentioned some of the guys who have won here in recent years, a lot of them are good putters and have good short games. So I don't know if around the green is really going to mean that much here. Because if you're chipping consistently, you're probably dead unless you're holing out for all of them. Now, you're going to have to chip from time to time. Your around the green game is going to get tested at some point. No one's going to hit 100% of the greens here, but I don't think it's all that relevant for those at the top of the leaderboard. I think putting is going to be more of the stat that you want to see. And then a couple pockets that I've listed. I mentioned the par 4s. I think par 4 scoring in general is going to be key. And then par 4s between 400 and 450 yards. That's kind of the yardage pocket that I've been looking at personally heading into this week. So those are kind of the stats that I'm focusing on and the player that I think I'm trying to build this week. But as I said earlier, a lot of different kind of player types have an opportunity here with how easy this course is.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so interesting this week. Like, because I really, really, I can't stand taking the top of the board.
I know.
And then I look at the top of the board every week, and I'm like, man, oh man, I want to take the top of the board. So I don't know, man. Like, there's a reason why these guys are favored. There's a reason why they are the odds-on favorite. Whatever. We look at the top of the board. Let's do it right now, Jack. Tom Kim, 11-1. Sunjay M, 12-1. I was on him last week. That didn't really pay off, but he was okay. Jordan Spieth was all right. What was the one and done, by the way? We'll get into that later, but we'll get into that later. Jordan Spieth, 16-1. Brian Harmon, the little weasel, 18-1. Hideki Matsuyama, 18-1. We'll kind of shut it down there, the top 5 of the board. Tom Kim, your favorite player. You in on him this week?
Dude, I am so torn with the top of this board. Like, except for Brian Harmon. I'm just not touching Brian Harmon 18-1. Are you kidding me? That's never going to happen. I'm never going to.
How is he 18-1, dude? How? What are they doing?
Dude, and I've even seen, I've looked through, some statistic models, and I've seen that Brian Harmon has, the second best odds of anyone in the field to win this tournament. And I just wonder how.
The models are broken. The models are broken.
If Brian Harmon wins at 18-1, good for him. I've never placed a wager on him ever. I'm not gonna start now at 18-1 for Brian Harmon, but yeah, there's some difficult choices here at the top. I absolutely love Tom Kim. Talked about him basically all throughout the fall swing. He won me some money at the Shriners, which was great. 11-1 is a toughie though, but at the same time, his skill set feels like it's just absolutely perfect for this course, and we obviously have seen him win at Sedgefield, which is kind of a comparison course to this. Just plays such a clean game, hits fairways, hits greens, make putts. That's Tom Kim's game, and we like him on courses where lack of distance, I guess I should say, his one Achilles heel isn't really going to matter. Man, it's going to be so tough for me to pass on Tom Kim. But, Sungjae is another guy who I really feel like on a short par 70 can just go out and absolutely ball strike the hell out of this thing. And I was also on Sungjae last week, and last year, this was the same situation that happened to me. I had Hideki at the Tournament of Champions, kind of had a mediocre performance, as did Sungjae last week.
You're a week early.
Didn't back Hideki at Sony, and then he goes out and, marches down Russell Henley, who I did have money on, and winds up beating him in a playoff. So I kind of have the scaries about Sungjae. I might just put money on both of these South Koreans and call it a week, honestly, with the way that, the big dogs have kind of been winning tournaments recently. And if I just went with or if I just went with Rahm last week, I would have wound up making money. So
can we stop for just a second? That was part of what pissed me off so much, because we were between JT and Rahm, and I didn't go with Rahm. I went with JT, who was not that great. Sorry, I'm pissed off again. Go ahead, Jack.
I made the same decision. At the same time, a 6-5 Rahm, I would have won $180.
Yeah, right. That's not much, but
I know Rahm never has big numbers, so it does kind of sting a little bit. But yeah, I think I'm kind of in between the two Koreans here, and Tom Kim and Sungjae M. Jordan Spieth does have some decent history here. I'm just a little worried about his putting through 4 rounds. And then there's also Hideki, who I literally had the same situation with him last year. Am I just going to fade him now? And is he going to go win Sony again, where he historically putts well? I'm really torn here at the top of the board, but I guess if I had to rank them, I'd probably go Tom Kim, Sungjae as a 1A, 1B, and then Hideki as my 2. What are you thinking here at the top?
I mean, it's real tough to decide. You can just X out the weasel, Brian Harmon.
Yeah,
he's not on my card. I mean, if you want to talk top 20 market, maybe, but I'm sure it's not great odds for a top 20. I haven't looked at his market. Other than that, dude, no, I'm not betting Brian Harmon. Eliminate him. He's 5th out of those rankings. Keeping moving, I guess Hideki would probably be 4th, I guess, out of that list. And I want to get to Hideki, but I don't know. I don't see him repeating, I guess, is kind of the thing there. Yeah, man. Kim and M. Kim and M. M and Kim. They kind of make a lot of sense. But it's just too short odds for me, to go ahead and double down. I get the reason why you would do it, and I actually was considering doing something similar to a JT and Rahm, but those 2 names doing that with just didn't feel right to me. We've seen longer odds kind of hit at this tournament in particular, some long shot names. So I just couldn't really do that. So I didn't bet either one of those. I will have a little bit of buyer's remorse, or not buyer's remorse, but like FOMO, I guess, if one of these two guys do win the tournament, because, yeah, I definitely will, especially the M thing because of last week. So if he does hit this week, I will feel the same way you did last year. Spieth. I don't think I've bet him yet, but I don't know. I like him, man. Like, hasn't played here since 2019. He was cut that year, but 2017, 2018, both trips where he played at Kapalua the week before, finished 18th and 3rd at the Sony Open. And I was kind of looking at, I love looking at the above expectation, below expectation. Out of the guys that have done well here, he has the lowest, like he's the worst below expectation with the best adjusted strokes gained, average adjusted strokes gained, if that makes sense. Like, he has been below expectation, but still doing really well here. So my thinking is by betting Spieth, like if he plays to his level, which he's capable of, and he looked pretty good last week, he might just dominate this event, Jack. Like, that's kind of what I'm thinking. He might just dominate this event. So I'm really considering Spieth. I haven't done it yet, but that's kind of what I'm thinking there. Any last thoughts on this group before we move on?
Yeah, I will say about Spieth, I'm probably not going to get there, but there is something to be said about how he won at the RBC Heritage last year, which is a very similar style to this course where he hit a lot of wedges. And I think he was losing. I think he lost strokes putting and still won that event. That's just how good his
crazy
and ball striking was. And that was the event where he missed like a 2-footer on Sunday, and he still ended up beating Patrick Cantlay in a playoff. You mentioned the 3rd place that he had here in 2018, I believe it was. So I get it. I just think I'm going to go with either Im or Kim up top over Jordan personally.
Yeah, no, I get it. Moving down the board here, we got your boy Corey Connors, 22-1. Russell Henley, who you bet last year, 22-1. Wow, heartbreaking in that playoff, losing with Matsuyama, Hideki, getting that eagle there in the first round of the playoff. First playoff round. Tom Hoagie, 28-1. That's my boy. He's becoming my boy right there. 28-1. Tom Hoagie. Billy Ho, 35-1. Was there some talk of him backing out of this tournament, or did I miss that?
No one. Well, I think he's going to play. He posted on his Instagram story a picture of like him in like the backdrop. I think he's playing.
Okay, so Billy Horschel there, 35-1. Cam Davis, 35-1. 40-1 range. We'll kind of get to that in a second. Your boy Corey Connors, you in?
Yeah, I'm starting to get too many boys. I'm starting to.
You got the whole cards, your boy. Yeah, I gotta stop saying that.
All these guys, dude. I know it's tough. I like Corey Connors here. Corey Connors might have the best course history out of anyone who hasn't won here. And it makes sense. He's a great ball striker. He, I believe, leads the field in good drives gained over the past 24 rounds. Really clean tee to green. Question is just, can he make enough putts? And he's actually never lost strokes putting here in his career, which, if you know anything about Corey Connors, that's actually bananas. My only concern is that he never really pops enough to go and win the thing. Like, he's the type of guy that'll go out here and shoot like 66 or 67 every day, and you kind of need around a 63 or 64 to win this thing. Like
John Rahm round, right?
Yeah, I just don't know if Corey Connors can go low enough to win this tournament. And another thing too, like, as someone who's been backing Corey Connors for a while, 22-1, like, probably isn't going to recoup all the money I've lost on him. Will I be sad if I miss out on the dub, regardless of what the odds are? Absolutely, because I really am a Corey Connors truther. It's just tough when I just don't know if I can bet on him to have a ceiling week. It just feels like it's so tough. At the same time, it's going to come anywhere. It feels like it's here for Corey Connors. So I'm still kind of making up my mind on him. But another reason why I'm having some difficulties here is because I do like Russell Henley, even though he boinked me last year and has never won me any money in my life, despite me believing in his talents. I feel like this is a really good course fit, and courses like this, he seems to always play well. One of the biggest comparison courses is Mayakoba, which, by the way, RIP to a fallen friend, Mayakoba, which will no longer be on the PGA Tour, as that's now a live event. But Russell Henley obviously just won there a few months ago. We've seen Patton Kizzire and Matt Kuchar win both the Sony Open and that event, Mayakoba. So there obviously is some correlation there. And Russell Henley on par fours, that's kind of his jam, ball striking and playing well on shorter par fours. So I like Henley a lot, and I do like your boy Tom Hoge, 28-1. We like Hoge with wedges in his hand. That's, just the name of his game. When he has a wedge, he's one of the best in the world. I'm probably only going to be able to play one of those three guys, Connors, Henley, and Hoge, I feel like. Especially if I'm going to go with Kim or Sungjae at the top. So I have some difficulty there. And I also like Cam Davis, man. This is the type of course I like Cam Davis on.
I've seen quite a bit of love for him this week too, I feel like.
Yeah, he was out there at 45-1 to open up the week. I was really thinking about jumping on that early. I probably should have because it's been beaten down a little bit here. But yeah, this range is probably my favorite in particular. I feel like I'm going to go one at the top, one of Connors, Henley, Hoge, and then Cam Davis. Those will be my three guys below 40-1 that I probably play this week. Maybe I throw in a fourth just because some lower odds guys seem to always be winning on the PGA Tour recently, bro. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking in this range. What do you got for me?
Well, let's see here. I'm probably I mean, come on, man. We can't not do it.
All I'm going to say is Tom Hoge is probably still drinking his sorrows away because he flew from Hawaii to LA to watch his TCU Horned Frogs get their dicks by Georgia. So
he made the trip and then came back?
Oh, yeah.
No.
He's back yet. He might be – apparently Tom Hoge likes to be a bit of a gambler, so he might be like 30 drinks deep in a casino just pressing buttons somewhere right now.
Dude, he's not even golfing this weekend then, is what you're saying.
No, he's going to golf. He's going to be there. He's going to be there. Will he mentally be there? I don't know.
We're going to give it a shot regardless because I just have to. I have to. If you look at his history here, though, it's a little questionable, though, right? Like, caught here the last 2 years. He does have a 12th place and a 3rd place here. He has 3 top 10 so far this season, which a lot of that was, swing season, of course. So how much do you make of that? I don't know. And then there was the QB shootout. Tied for 3rd last week. Pebble Beach win, man, was a little while ago, but it feels like he's on the verge to me of another victory. It really does. After this past weekend, he's now 1st in strokes gained approach for the season. We've talked about even over the course of like dating back rounds, how he's been that guy, tracked rounds. He's been that guy, the leader, maybe the past like 28 rounds, I want to say something like that. So yeah, I do like Hoge this week. I'm going to go ahead and take another flyer on him. I wouldn't even call it a flyer at this point. Like he's one of the better guys in this field.
That's just you hitting the button.
Yeah, it's me hitting the button again. Me hitting the button. And I am in on your boy, Corey Connors.
Oh,
yeah.
Is this so? I guess you're still thinking about Spieth. Are you thinking you're going to go Spieth, or would you prefer to start your card here?
Like normally, I'd prefer to start here. Normally, I absolutely would prefer to start here or like 25, like somewhere in that range. But like Spieth, I feel like you have to get one of those top guys. It's just the models and the consistency and the quality of golf that you're getting at the top of the card now.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming the data that's showing of the guys that are winning in those ranges. So I can't really ignore that. It's something I have to take into consideration and just keep looking at. Russell Henley admittedly scares the hell out of me here, though. Like, I'm not going to lie, man. Game suits the course. Not a long hitter. Extremely accurate off the tee. 6th or better strokes gained approach the last 3 PGA Tour seasons. Like, Russell Henley scares me, and I'm not going to get there, but he does scare me. Connors, man. Valero Texas Open, like, it's been that long. It's been that long. It doesn't feel like it should be that long for him. Great course fit. Is this the time? Is this his year to break through, Jack? And I'm talking like get a win. I feel like it could be his year too.
A lot of lot of people are thinking this is going to be a big year for Corey Connors. I'm hoping so. Although I hope we can get just more of him at like 30, 35 to 1. I'd prefer to bet Corey Connors there. That's literally the only difficulty I have with him right now is that he's 22 to 1. But I do believe it could be a good year for Corey Connors, man. I've been a believer of his game. He's just such a good ball striker. If he could figure it out on the greens, man, like he has the potential to rattle off wins consistently on the PGA Tour. So
how many guys do we say that about, though, too? He's not the only one, so I feel like you're right.
Fair, but there are just the one thing I will say that makes him different and certain guys different is just the ball striking. Like he has elite caliber ball striking. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see if I get there. I absolutely understand it, and I love to hear you supporting my boy, of course.
I'm not trying to talk you into it, though. I am not trying to do that. I know.
You don't have to do that. My old brain does that enough. Just like
I know.
Connors all day.
You're almost going to hit the button regardless of what I say. But
your button says Hoagie, mine says Connors.
And we just might be clicking both this week. Keith Mitchell, man, moving down the board here. I saw him at 40 to 1. Keith Mitchell's right now, though, it looks like he might be better odds, 45 to 1. I grabbed him at 40 to 1. So if that even got better, I'm kind of pissed because I bet him at 40 to 1. Adam Scott, 40 to 1. Keegan Bradley, 40 to 1. K.H. Lee, 40 to 1. Taylor Montgomery, 40 to 1. 45 range, I guess we'll kind of talk about that too because I already mentioned Keith Mitchell, and now he is 45 to 1 somewhere. Harris English, 45 to 1. Maverick McNeely, 45. Siwoo Kim, 45 to 1. Jack, there's a lot of names here. What do you think?
Yeah, this is where it starts to thin out for me a little bit. The ones that I have the interest the most in, come on, my boy Keegan Bradley loves him some par 70s. He's got a decent track record here. He's never really like been in contention, but loves him some par 4s, and he can be a clean player unless he's in contention down the stretch of Sunday. That's where all the worries come in. But 40 to 1 seems like a pretty fair price for Keegan, so I could easily find myself going back on that train. By the way, shout out to Keegan Bradley, losing 30 pounds in the offseason, bro. He's on like a complete carnivore diet. He's like only eating meat and cut out like Gatorade and carbs or anything in his life. He looks really good, so good for Keegs. Love to see that. But I might be on him at 40 to 1. The other two guys that have interest for me, Taylor Montgomery, because he can just absolutely fill it up, and it feels like his floor, he's really established a high floor, and I know a lot of that came during the fall swing where not as many of the events are even as good as this one. Like they're a lot worse, no doubt about it. I still feel like Taylor Montgomery is just that consistent player, and I think there's a lot of big things coming for him too this year. So there's some interest there for me. And Keith Mitchell actually is the other one that caught my eye. I was on him here last year, and it's weird because I mentioned how playing a clean game and not having distance isn't really all that much of a factor here. Keith Mitchell can absolutely bomb it, and for some reason on short par 70s, there's like two different courses that are good for Keith Mitchell. Like the more difficult Florida swing per se, where he can rely on that driver on longer tracks and really give himself chances. And then there's the par 70s that are short where he can just drive the hell out of it, leave himself like, 80, 90 yards in, and he just goes bananas with his irons some weeks. So I do have some interest in Keith Mitchell, but as we start fading down here, knowing how much I want to go to the top of the board, I'm really going to have to be careful about where I sprinkle. So I'm probably not going to get to too many guys, honestly, down here, even though, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, you can make a lot of cases for these guys because it's an easy event. If you have the putter and the approach game working, you can find yourself in the mix on the weekend.
Yeah, this is kind of where I started to lose interest as well. Really quickly, though, I want to bring up a comment here by our boy Ron Luce at On Tap Sportsnet. He's at Loose on Tap. We'll be doing a Cubs show at Cubbies on Tap with him in a little bit. So stay tuned. Check that out right here on the YouTube channel and on Twitter. But he said, so Speed the choice, spring a little bit on Russell. I don't know. It's not a terrible option there doing either one of those things. But yeah, Jack, I don't know, man. This range did get a little bit kind of chaotic for me, I think. Like, I didn't really know where I wanted to put money if I did at all. And the only reason why I did with Mitchell is because You kind of mentioned it at the top of the show, right? Talking about stats that matter, things that we're looking for. Mitchell, he is a long hitter, and it's not really that important here necessarily, but he does have an advantage, and I really just liked the course history here. Like, I think this is a course where if you do have course history, a lot of times it tends to travel well. Like, it tends to kind of rebirth itself a little bit the next time you come here. So, yeah, I think T25 is last time here. 4 of his last 5 have been T16 or better, with a 7th place finish last year. So it seems like he's even getting better here a little bit. Knocking off the rust, I don't know. He didn't play last week, right, Jack? So I'm a little worried about that. But that's the only name I could really get to in this range without feeling like I was just throwing darts to throw darts, even though Montgomery, like I do like Montgomery as well. I just don't know if this is necessarily his week. Like, you're going to have to putt the lights out because everybody's going to be putting pretty well, I think, this week.
That's kind of fair. I might like Taylor Montgomery on some more difficult courses where he can use that drive and putt strategy a little bit better. So thank you for that info.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's the right info, but yeah.
I like the mindset behind it. It does make sense.
Yeah, for sure. JJ Spawn, he kind of snuck up. He was like the little weasel last week. 50 to.
Before we go down, did you see JJ Spawn's controversial shirt choice this weekend?
No, what was he wearing?
Well, it wasn't even like a controversial shirt. It was the fact that he was playing untucked. I think it was on Friday.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Button down. It was just like, I thought it was awesome, by the way. And of
who
course,
cares?
The old heads are like, tuck it in. And
oh my God.
Fuck you.
Those are the same guys that probably don't like Joel Damon for his bucket hat. You know?
Yeah, and we're mad when Joel Damon and Harry Higgs had some fun on the 16th at the Waste Management last year. Those people they're just not with golf progressing and growing and being fun. I don't understand it. I couldn't believe people were actually upset over JJ Spawn not tucking in his shirt. By the way, as just a middle finger to all those people, he had a hell of a tournament, and JJ Spawn being up there at the Tournament of Champions with some of the best in the world. Hey, tip my cap to the guy. Keep rocking the untucked shirt, JJ.
Hell yeah.
I love to see it.
Hell yeah. Keep rocking it. Who cares, dude? Who cares? Like you had to bring it up in that manner for me to even realize that it was a controversy, quote unquote. Yeah. But like, because I was watching it, a lot of the time I listen on mute when I'm watching like other sporting events too. Like, especially because we had nighttime golf last week.
True.
Or this past weekend. So a lot of it was on mute, and then I kind of like volume low. So I didn't even hear them talking about that. But Ron says right here, same bastards that don't like John Daly's pantalones. Yeah, dude, John Daly is like the swag daddy. And if you don't like his pantalones, you can go fuck yourself.
And the weird part is too, those people probably were okay with him like ripping darts all the time too. They're like, oh no, the SIGs are fine, but tuck in that damn shirt, buddy.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You can bring all the women around that you want. You can sing, like bring a microphone out on the course, but tuck in the pants, please.
Yeah, right.
Bring out the SIGs, yes. So yeah, with that said though, Jack, let's go ahead and keep moving it here. Back on track. We got to get back on track. JJ Spawn to JT Poston, 50-1. Both those guys, Matt Kuchar, 50-1. Success here. Obviously, we mentioned it. Andrew Putnam, 55-1. Alex Smalley, 60-1. My boy, the Grill Master, our boy, 60-1. Emiliano Grillo, Gary Woodland, 60-1. Kurt Kitayama, seen a lot of love for him this week. Yeah, let's stop there before we get too crazy out of line. Jack, anything that you see in this area? Are we grilling this week?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be grilling this week, to be honest. Grillo doesn't have the best course history here. It's some comparison courses though, and we usually like him on coastal tracks with water around. So it does make sense for Grillo. I'm not going to lie.
Well, shrimp on the bobbies. Come on now, shrimp on the bobbies.
I think I want to see something from him before I put money back down. Because if you remember at the end of the fall swing to close 2022, the putter did kind of go back to being what it was a little bit after he had gained in like 10 consecutive events or something crazy. So do I believe in the skill set of Grillo? Yeah, I think I kind of just want to see him for a week first.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
The two that interest me the most, I don't know how to feel about this, honestly, Joey. One is Matt Kuchar. Believe it or not, I think Cooch can compete here, and there aren't many places that Cooch can still compete at. But he plays a clean game. Distance doesn't matter. We know old Kuchar doesn't hit it that far. But when he putts, he rolls in that rock. And if you look at his recent results, yeah, he has been cut 2 of the last 3 times here. But if you go back to 2014, basically every time he's made the cut, he's in contention and inside the top 10. Obviously, he's won here too. I don't know. I don't love the fact that I'm leaning towards Matt Kuchar whatsoever, but I feel like he's aware of the fact that there are limited places that he can still compete at. And this is one of them. So I kind of think I've talked myself into going with Matt Kuchar. The other one is Gary Woodland, believe it or not.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I know. Old Gary, who has not been great
Oh, boy.
the last year. He has some solid course history here, and I feel like this is a really big number for a guy who, yes, we haven't seen the upside much since like the Florida swing, which was, like March of last year. But man, he has some really good finishes here. He's finished inside the top 10. 3 of his last 5 appearances, makes the cut usually every time here. I don't know, 60-1. I think I can even find bigger number than that with some enhanced odds. Why not give me a shot on some old guys here and Matt Kuchar and Gary Woodland? It's probably a terrible idea, but that's where my profiles kind of led me to go down here.
I mean, it's not a terrible idea. Once you start getting in this range, I think, like we kind of mentioned it, right? A lot of longer guys have won. Kuchar has won, right? Like it's not outrageous at all to even think of his name. And Woodland's won bigger events than this. Like, yes, it's been a little while.
It's been a while.
Yeah, but he can do it, right? He can definitely do it. So I don't think it's too crazy. I'm not going to do it. Trust me. Woodland's not in my radar this week, but I do understand the course history and all that. I'll give you one, and then we'll we don't really have to go all the way down the board and talk about every single number and every single player, but I'll give you a golfer that I like at 80-1, Jack. You've mentioned him before. We've bet him before. You've definitely bet him before. The Todd Father.
Fuck.
80-1.
You weren't going to say that.
Why? Are you on him?
I don't know. Seems like I'm like the opposite of the Todd Whisperer. I'm like, oh, this looks like a Brendan Todd course, and then he finishes like 78th. I just never am on him at the right times.
He's very difficult to predict when he's going to pop. But I will say the reasons why I like him are probably the same reasons that you like him this week. His short game is his strength, and his driving accuracy is his strength. That's it. That's all there is to it. And what is this course to us this week? We're looking at this course I know you're kind of mentioning the driving accuracy maybe not being as important this week, even though the fairways are a little bit more narrow because of the rough and stuff like that. But I do still believe that guys with good driving accuracy, you're probably going to put yourself in a lot better lies, a lot better positions, et cetera, et cetera. Short game, great short game. Brendan Todd, sign me up, man. He's only missed 1 of 8 cuts here. It's in 1 of 8 events, he's missed a cut. So he hasn't really extremely popped here necessarily, but I think it's a place for him. What do you think, Jack? I don't want to talk you into it. I just want your thoughts on him.
No, I don't know what I'm going to do with Brendan Todd, but funny enough, I mentioned earlier, what's the big comparison course to Waialae? That would be Mayakoba. I used Brendan Todd as my one and done at Mayakoba in the fall. He finished 53rd.
Oh,
shit. I'm not going
to.
I'm going to pass.
He's going to be 53rd for me this week now. Watch.
I'm going to pass.
All right. I definitely understand. I've seen some love for Hayden Buckley in this range. Webb Simpson, probably a place that he can actually do decent too. Denny McCarthy, I don't know, man. What are we doing around here? Chris Kirk, 100-1. What you see anything else you like down here?
Yeah, I'll throw out a couple names. I will say, Webb Simpson, if he shows any sign of life the rest of his career, it's like here. I mean, these are Webb's jams, and you look at what he used to do here when he was in the best part of his career. It was a regular top 5 finish. He's never won here, but it seemed like he was always contending. The RBC Heritage, a similar course, is a place he's dominated at before. and he just hasn't shown any signs of life in a year. I mean, I just can't. I have to see it from Webb Simpson before I even think about it.
What was the 1 week that we were on him recently?
I can't remember. There was one. I think it might have been Mayakoba, because it would make sense. That would be like
a
false swing that would like fit him the best. I don't remember exactly if we were on him there, but it would make sense, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does make a lot of sense with the correlation. I get it.
There are a couple names I'll throw out. Brendan Steele, 100-1. The way the courses that he has success on, I'm not saying he's going to go and have a good week here. He's kind of a hit or miss guy, but when he does have his upside weeks, they usually come on this course. I bet on him last year. I believe he missed the cut. So we'll see if I go back to him again. The other guys that I will say are worthy of a look, Will Gordon. I think he is kind of Keith. He's like diet Keith Mitchell. Like, he hasn't been proven on the PGA Tour at all. He's still a newcomer, really, but when he can rely on his driver, I think it will be interesting. You know, I don't know if this is exactly the course for it, but I wouldn't think this would be a great course for Keith Mitchell either. So I think Will Gordon, someone who popped late in the fall swing, is kind of worth a look. The last one I'm getting to is Russell Knox, plus 150. I'm definitely going to
good old Fort Knox, baby.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to take a shot on Russell Knox. He usually makes the cut here basically every year. He's never really been in contention. I feel like that's just kind of too big of a number for Russell Knox, and he likes him some coastal tracks, par 70, easier. It's kind of his jam, so I just thought that number was a little big. I'll probably sprinkle some there, but yeah, not really much to talk about after 100-1, in my opinion, at least. If there's anyone you want to shout a name out before we kind of wrap things up with some props and whatnot, holler a couple names, Barla.
Yeah, there's a couple. I think Patton Kizzire deserves a mention for what he's done here, but I don't know. I'm not getting there. I've seen people as well on him, but not going to do that. I think 130-1, and I get the Will Gordon thing, by the way. I actually think he's probably going to have a pretty decent year this year. I really do. And like you said, the fall swing, the success he had in the swing season. He's a guy that can do some damage on tour. The guy I got to was Aaron Rye, 130-1. That was the last guy I bet, like the longest odds. Cutting his only trip here, you know, but you would think like his game suits this course as well, right? A lot of greens and reg, hits fairways, expected yardage bucket that we expect a lot of the shots to be from. It kind of seems like it's right in his wheelhouse as well, if I'm not mistaken. So I do like Aaron Rye a little bit. Other than that, man, a guy who makes sense, and I'm not going to bet him, but he does make sense. I just want to shout his name out. 200-1, Ryan Armour. Like,
been there.
200-1 is a crazy, crazy number for a guy that, like, I hate saying this, but because we've said it so many times throughout the show, fits the course. Like, and he can pop. He has pop. So, yeah, and him and Ches Reavie kind of too. Ches Reavie's just so boomer bust though, dude. And most of the time bust. But
he just hasn't been the same in the last 4 years. But he does have some good course history here, I will say. And
yeah,
he's the guy who played last week. So
played last week, accurate driver. I don't know. Don't let me talk you into it. Jack, any props that you're getting to? Let's talk props if you have any.
Yeah, I think I'm only going to get on two. I don't see myself sprinkling too many props this week because we just don't have any form. I think until we get a few weeks in, that's kind of when I'll be on more props. The one that I liked, the only nationality prop that I liked was Cam Davis, top Australian. I found that at plus 125. I feel like that's a really good number for a guy I'm taking an outright on. And the only guys he has in there with him are Adam Scott, Aaron Badley, and Harrison Endicott. So I'm already believing in Cam Davis and his talent this week and on a course that should fit him well. A really good wedge player too. I like plus odds for Cam Davis to be the top Australian. The other one I'm going to bet, I haven't bet it yet because I haven't been able to find any odds on it. So you might need to help me out with this, Joey. First bet of the year, my boy Stewie Sink. Baby.
Uh-oh.
Go and look at Stuart Sink. He hasn't missed the cut here in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. His last 8 starts dating back to 2014, and his worst finish in that stretch is T42.
Ooh, so you're looking at a top 40 market, really, right?
They don't have any top 40s listed, at least from what I've looked at yet.
Not
So
yet. And I
I
don't
don't
see
know.
a make the cut for him either listed because it's all starting at like Matt Kuchar at minus 350 or something crazy.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm gonna have to look around, but I definitely want to find a way to get on some Stewie Sink because apparently he likes coming to Waialae, and even though he's past the prime of his career, I guess you could say, although he's won twice not all that long ago, he continuously golfs well here. So that's kind of one thing that I picked up on. And for those who've been following on the show for quite some time, I love me some Stewie Sink. I think I might have
Yeah.
bet him at the PGA Championship. That's how much I like Stewart Sink. So
You love you some Stewie Sink, I will
yeah,
say. I don't think I've ever bet him since we've been on the show.
I think I just respect him. Like he's just an old man. He's got the best hat tan line of all time. He wears the hat everywhere. The top of his head is just like white like a cue ball. And he's got his son caddying for him. He made a hole in one at Augusta, and him and his son were going nuts. I'm like, I don't know. I just find myself connected to Stewie Sink. He's kind of like, I think what I want to be when I'm that age, except I'm, never going to be on tour, sadly.
Well, we'll never be that cool, period, sadly.
That's a fact. So,
But
yeah, Stewie Sink, I'm going to find a way to get on him some way. But that's all I got for props this week, bro.
I like it, man. I like it. I didn't have anything until we hopped on the show. And I can tell you right now, I took a quick little glance, opened up the book. I see a couple matchups I like.
All right,
so
let's hear it real quick.
I want people to shop around, though. Like if you're listening to this, watching this live, shop around, find the best odds possible because they might not be what I'm going to tell you. Let's go ahead and go Jordan Spieth over the little weasel, Brian Harman, plus 100. I think Brian Harman is an extremely high floor most of the time. I will say that. And he is a little weasel. But Spieth, man, I do think he's going to be good at this track. He has been good, and he's carrying over from last week. And we know how good he's been recently since carrying over from the last course that we just saw, Kapalua, the plantation course, coming over here to I'm going to butcher the fuck out of the name. You said it like 20 times during Waialae. Why I got to say that is the real question. And then Keith Mitchell over Billy Ho, minus 110. I think Mitchell's floor here, what he's done, not seemingly the best course fit for him, but like you mentioned, reasons why he has like kind of two attack areas or like ways he can play these courses when you can hit it as long as he can, and he uses that to his advantage. So I think that Keith Mitchell over Billy Ho, who we kind of talked about, might be a guy that might not care all that much this week. It sounds like he's going to golf, but not sure. So I think Keith Mitchell over Billy Ho or Billy Horschel, however you want to say his name, and then Jordan Spieth over Brian Harman, the little weasel, again, however you want to say his name. Those are my two prop bets this week.
Yeah, the little weasel didn't get a great finish for me in the one and done last week. That's probably what we'll move to close things out here.
It is. Yep.
Sungjae didn't get you the best finish either. I mean, 13th is all right in the field of 39. I just think in comparison for you to use Sungjae and only win by 3 spots over Brian Harman, that's a little tough.
Oh, it was a tough pill to swallow once I saw what Brian Harman was doing. Like, let's be honest, dude. I tried to talk it into existence that he was going to completely ruin you because you called him a weasel and because we called him the one that popped out in Caddyshack. And that just didn't come to fruition. But yeah, man, Im looked pretty good for like 3 rounds, right? I don't know what his fourth.
He had a bad Friday and a bad start to his Sunday.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Saturday kind of hovered in contention until Morikawa ran away with it, and then needed to have a John Rahm-esque Sunday. Didn't finish 13th.
Tough, man, tough. But in a field like that, I agree with you. That's not really what you want to see. 13th from your one and done pick. I burned him, so I'm not really that happy with that. Yeah, off the board. You ruined the little weasel. What are we doing this week, Jack? What's your one and done? You get to pick because you're still ahead in the points.
Yeah, you got to catch up so you could start picking first. In
Oh, God damn it. It's fine, though.
We got a long ways to go. Don't you worry. I've only really been debating between 2 guys. I've been debating between Corey Connors and I've been debating between Russell Henley. I don't really think I'm too worried about burning either of these guys here. No real big events I guess I think I could say myself like kind of garnering interest in these guys as a one and done. So yeah, I'm gonna go Russell Henley. I'm gonna leave Corey Connors. I think there is potential for him to have a big year and to use him later on. So I'm gonna go Henley as my one and done this week.
Yeah, I'm not happy with you right now. I don't think I've picked Henley yet, have I?
No, you have not.
I was thinking about taking him.
Well, sorry.
Yeah, thanks. Let's go ahead and go with your pick from last week. Let's go with
the Weasel.
Let's go with the little weasel.
All right.
This is how I hedge, Jack. This is my little like own thing, I guess, mentally, is because I'm taking a head-to-head with Jordan Spieth over him. I have to hedge somehow, and I have no exposure to Brian Harman this week, so let's take a little like one and done with Brian Harman. I could easily see him finishing within the top 20 and still, making this worthwhile for me.
I agree. I think that's a pretty decent pick for this week. Not worried about using him later on in the season. Don't need to get on him in the outright market. I see him actually at 16-1 on DraftKings Sportsbook, which makes me want to throw up. So yeah, I think that is a way to have minimal exposure to Brian Harman.
Yeah. So with that said, now this will be the week that he shits his pants and crawls back into his hole.
Yeah, you tried to talk it into fruition last week. You might have talked it into fruition for you this week.
Oh, it's without a doubt, dude. When Colin Morikawa can blow a 9-shot lead, anything is possible. All right, let's just say for me as a bettor, anything is possible. Jack, any final thoughts before we wrap up this great show? We're almost an hour on the dot, just a little over that. I'm expecting a good tournament this week. Not as like high. I mean, what's the first full field of the new calendar year? So I'm excited for this. Jack, any final thoughts or words of wisdom before we wrap up?
Yeah, should be a good one. First full field event of 2023, back to being the big swing of things. And we get some more primetime golf. Enjoy it while we got it out in Honolulu. There will be some scenery there this weekend as well. And hopefully, I'm hoping I can have at least one guy in contention. I didn't have anyone really in contention of anything heading into Sunday at the Century Tournament of Champions. So hopefully that changes. Hopefully I can have someone in the mix down the stretch, and more so than that, hopefully we can come away with our first win of 2023 this week. You're due for one after having that robbed of you at Kapalua.
Dude, and Tony put it in the chat. Tony put it in the chat and said, who's on Morikawa plus 2,000, 20-1. And I'm like, me, like jumping out of my seat, like Morikawa. Yes. All weekend. That was me. All right. We're done talking about it. We need to get out of here. Follow us at OnTap Sportsnet on all social media platforms. Follow at OnTap Golf on Twitter. Follow at OnTap Bets. You can follow me at Joey Knows Nothing. Jack at Jack Bushman 2. Check out all the great content at OnTapSportsnet.com. Check out Cubbies on Tap at Cubbies on Tap on Twitter. We have a show coming up in just a little bit tonight. We are talking Cubs convention because we have the Cubs convention this weekend, which should be a lot of fun. If you're a Cubs fan, check that out. But don't forget to check out the other side of town too, the Southsiders, the White Sox. It's off-season talk, definitely. I don't know, I wouldn't say full swing, but like their rival Carlos Correa it seems like he's signing with the Minnesota Twins, so that's something that they're probably going to be talking about soon. The Chicago Bulls, go ahead and follow Bulls on Tap. The Blackhawks guys, Four Feathers Pod, all that good stuff, beer reviews. I'm probably missing something. Bears on Tap, of course. I'm on that show. Can't miss that. So definitely check out all that stuff. With that said, we are out of here. Good luck, everybody. Cash some tickets. Crack them. Lock them. Cash them. We're out.